to another edition of Heavy in the Paint. Gerald Brown, and as always, great to have you on board. Let's bring on my first guest, my only guest. This is a gentleman that I've had the pleasure of getting to know, working under him with grassroots basketball, and one of the greatest minds when it comes to grassroots basketball in New York City. Coaching legend. I'm not going to just limit him to high school, but coaching legend, college. So much of a program and building a program at St. Raymond's High School. Now he's doing it out in Chicago. The legendary Mr. Gary DeCesare joining me. Coach, I got to ask you, and we've talked about this before, when we sit back and say how much the transfer portal has happened. And just I have my youngest son is 17 right now, and just going through the process, and I followed your lead in regards to showcases and all the stuff that's associated with these college showcase camps. But we've heard so many things about Nike have lost a lot of money in terms of just sneakers not doing well. EYBL hasn't really been that sort of fruitful based upon the fact it's a transfer portal. When you look at the dynamic of recruiting kids, do you ever think that we'll get back to a point where you have tournaments spread out like a Charlie Weber, a Bob Gibbons, instead of just the sneaker companies having their own leagues and controlling everything?
No, I don't think so. First of all, thanks for having me, Gerald. You're doing a great job and moving up that ladder, and you're going to catch the Mad Dog pretty soon.
Don't say that.
But, you know, I just think the transfer portal has killed high school basketball. Kids are not getting recruited anymore. It's, if the NCAA back 20 years ago wasn't so greedy and selfish and shared money back then, where you didn't really have to give a lot of money to players, but gave them enough to be comfortable. I remember being a college coach and, guys coming to me and say, Coach, can you give me $5 to do my laundry? I mean, and of course I would do it. And, that was a violation. You couldn't help your players. So, the transfer portal, college coaches they recruit the portal. I mean, I believe as today, there's still 50% of the kids in the portal are still in the portal.
Yeah.
Where are they going? I mean, once you tell the coach you're going in the portal, they ain't saving a spot for you. They're going out and, recruiting other guys. And, I spoke to many college coaches that got jobs and they had 0 players. They had to bring in 12 players. It's a draft now. Every year it's going to be a draft. And I don't know what the solution is, but I know one thing: the high school kids are getting hurt.
Yeah, I think it's really, let's be honest, it's really, like you alluded to, the NCAA, which has created this monster. And when you look at the whole landscape, it's football that's controlling all of this,
Absolutely.
Football, and just the greed in terms of these sort of mega conferences where schools and these conferences don't even make sense. I mean, you're having West Coast teams and institutions that are in the ACC. I'm trying to wrap my head around that and gone on this idea of trying to say that these are student athletes. But you're right. I told people and told parents, if you're not a top 200 kid, it makes no sense to play in some of these tournaments and so-called live period events, because at the end of the day, I had a college coach tell me, he said, look, I'm going on vacation during the live period. I might check out a kid here and there, but I'm going on vacation. And that's what it's come to. But, how do you fix this? I mean, can it be fixed? I mean, will it be a situation where it will take one of the shoe companies, preferably Nike, just to pull out and just say, hey, you know what, we're done with the high school scene?
Yeah, I see that coming now. I think that's what's going to end up happening. And, they're more into their own league now. Nike started their own league with the academies, and, that's what they're focusing on now. That looks like their next EYBL on the high school level. But, there's a prep school on every corner now. It's just like I used to say, back when we had an AAU team and, There was, Riverside Church and the Gauchos and, Doc's team. And, then we came along and with the New York Ravens. And, but that, you didn't have, now there's an AU team on every corner. Now there's a prep school on every corner. People are starting prep school. They're not even schools. Kids just go there to play basketball. They don't take any classes. I mean, it's, people are charging them $30,000, $40,000 a year to just come and play basketball, and they're, telling them they're going to help them get a scholarship. Well, they're not getting scholarships either. Being a fifth-year senior doesn't necessarily, it puts you in the same boat as a high school kid after a year. You're going to go to junior college. My kids this year, I pushed them all toward junior college. I got 3 kids going junior college, 1 kid going D2. I told them, hey, I believe you're Division I players, but the system doesn't believe that you're Division I players. So go to junior college, make sure you have 24 credits after 1 year, put your name in the portal after 1 year. If it doesn't work, then you got another year of junior college. You got 2 years to prove that you could go play D1. But a college coach doesn't want to look at a high school kid. No. I mean, I got a kid right now, 6'7", 6'8". He's most underrated player I've ever had. He's a lefty, old school basketball player, great IQ, very coachable. And I mean, before COVID, this kid would be signed, sealed, and delivered already to a top 5 conference. You mentioned earlier a little bit about how about UCLA going to try UCLA and USC going from California to go play Rutgers? Let's go play Rutgers and run track at Rutgers. I mean, what are we doing here? I think what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 years, there ain't going to be an NCAA. I think it's going to be controlled by the conferences. I think the SEC and the Big Ten and the ACC is going to control everything. They're going to be the NCAA. They're going to make their own rules and have their own league and their own tournament. And, the money's going to follow the good teams. And, everybody else, maybe the NIT will become more popular then because everybody else will be in the NIT.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. And granted, your experience in being a college basketball coach and seeing how this stuff is how it's worked out. I've always wanted to question, why doesn't the NCAA, when it comes to football, look at perhaps emulating something with the NCAA tournament? And the only reason why I say that is we're getting to a point now that if kids are not playing in this playoffs, where it was recently 4 teams, they're opting out of these bowl games. So now these bowl games are not drawing the top teams. I remember watching Florida State play against Georgia, and essentially Florida State was bringing up kids that were freshmen. It was terrible of a game. And yet, now you're looking at these hosting committees for the bowls. The revenue is not there because it just doesn't make sense to go to watch these schools if you don't have a situation where kids, the top tier players, are playing. Now they're expanding the playoffs to 12 teams, I believe. But what do is there a reason that where you could think of why the NCAA wouldn't expand in football to help the bowl games in these committees that are not a part of that sort of select group? If you expand it, now you can have the Citrus Bowl be one of the first round games, if you will, or opportunities for, the top tier players to still continue to play.
Yeah, I mean, your point to the bowl games is that, it's the same thing as AAU. They got 100 bowl games now, just like, all the AAU teams. So everything gets watered down. Now I saw, I've seen elite camps for freshmen and sophomores. Now I've seen them. Last weekend I went to go watch one that was for 7th and 8th graders. Then I saw a flyer that an elite camp for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. I mean, what are we doing? I mean, the funniest thing is anybody can now, start a website, evaluate players, and say you're a recruiting guru. You mentioned some names earlier, Bob Gibbons, and obviously the great late Tom Konchowski, and
Charlie Woodward.
Charlie. those guys now, I mean, I look at these guys who are writing about kids. I don't think they ever dribbled a basketball or took a shot. I mean, it's like Looney Tunes. It's like a cartoon characters. You put them all in the same room and give them a basketball, and I bet you none of them could score. I mean, what qualifies them to evaluate a kid and make a top? All they're doing is selling a service where they got the parents buying the service to see where that kid is ranked. It's crazy. The whole thing is nuts. And we all lost it. It's lost. It's done. I just don't know how you can fix it.
Yeah, I've had some people within the NBA, share with me that, if you look at the draft this year, top two players, French kids, granted, they only combined to score 19 points in playing and stuff. But again, the international player. And then I had somebody tell me that, look, there is a streamline of kids from Africa that will be, again, some of the top tier players on the horizon in the near distant future. And saying all that, Coach, when you look at just the landscape now, and I don't think people realize that the league seems apparently moving away from the American player and enticed with the European player, the international player, I should say, because the game is growing. In another couple of years, we're going to have, this streaming access where the NBA is going to be in a situation where they're going to look to get really heavily in the streaming market. So now it's globalizing the game even furthermore. How much of a setback will that be if that happens to a lot of these high school players pretty much here and in the States that look at AAU basketball as a saving grace for them to get to perhaps the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. I mean, all I could say is it looks like it's getting worse before it's going to get any better. I just don't know. Kids don't. It's funny. During the summer, I told my kids, I'm in school every day because I work every day, and my job is full year round. So I'm there, and if you want to come in and get up some shots, I got the gun. You want to come up and get shoot for an hour and a half, and you get about 1,000 shots up. But no, they'd rather go play in a tournament, on a Friday night where they could play 2 games, play 5 on Saturday, and play 3 or 4 on Sunday, and play 9 games in 3 days, and probably get up a total tops, if you're a good player, maybe 25 shots versus getting in the gym and putting up 1,000 shots in an hour. I said to one kid, "Why are you playing with this AU program?" I never heard of him. His response was, "Oh, the coach makes good videos." So they're playing for highlight tapes to put them on. And I said, if there's a college coach that gives you a scholarship on a video, I'm sure he'll be fired in 2 or 3 years. I mean, it's mind-boggling what these kids really believe today.
Yeah.
They put all that effort into making a video of, I had one kid coming down, and he put the video of him. He missed a dunk, but he got up above the rim and he stopped the video there, to make believe that he was dunking. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, they think highlights is the video. A video is going to get them a scholarship.
But that it's social media, and I think that's the biggest thing. When you look at, where they come from, that's their world is social media. I want to ask you this in terms of just, as the era has gone, and obviously you mentioned about the influx of all these AAU teams, and all these different things gone, very limited shoe contracts, but the rise of the trainers. Every kid, pretty much, I think the key to success is personal trainers. And look, I don't knock anybody for their hustle, make your money, but I've had some questions about that in terms of these trainers because, I grew up in an era where, you were at the Gaucho gym, it's you in there playing. you out in the park, you playing, and this trainer was something that, has all of a sudden come out of nowhere. And you see more kids playing indoor basketball or with their trainer, as opposed to being in the park or being in the gym working on those fundamentals. What are your thoughts on just this rise of the trainers that happen in basketball?
A bunch of frauds. That's what they are. I mean, a parent could go spend $50, $75, an hour for a trainer, and I've watched some of them. Even my own coaches, they do it on the side. I give them at our gym, and I watch them, and I just shake my head and laugh that parents will actually pay for what they do. I mean, so everybody's got a trainer. Larry Brown said it best. Everybody has a trainer. Nobody knows how to play basketball. It's a great quote. And it's true. Everybody's got a trainer, but nobody knows how to play the game. So I mean, I watch trainers rebound for kids. I watch trainers. Last year in a game, just to humor me, I've called timeout. To go for the last shot in the game, and in the huddle, I would say, "Okay, here we go. There's no cones on the court right now. Okay, you're not going to dribble through cones. Okay, but here's a set. This is what we're going to do. Okay, Johnny, you're going to go off a double screen. You're going to, if he jumps the screen, you're going to fade to the corner. Okay, if he footsteps you, you're going to curl it. Okay, if he plays you straight up, he's just going to pop out and shoot it. But there's no cones on the court. Okay, and the point guard with the ball, don't dribble. I don't want you to dribble and take a step back three like Steph Curry. Okay, I want you to execute the play. I mean, so that's how, hey, I'm 60 years old now, and I've been doing this for 35 years. I've been fortunate enough. And do I say I adjusted to the times? I sure have. It's different times. And if you don't, I wouldn't be in the game. And a lot of coaches are getting out of it because they don't want to play the game. They don't want to play the game the way it is now. Okay? Yeah. I kind of revolutionized myself. And, I look at it as now, hey, I tell parents ask me all the time, hey, what's your style? I said, I don't know. I don't know my team. I got to know my team before I could tell you how we're going to play. I'm not going to do the same thing every year like some coaches do. It's not right to the players that I have. Mm. So, you have to adjust to the coaches have to adjust to the kids that they have. And I'm all in on the no position player, on positionless basketball. To me, there's only two positions on the court, on and off. You're either in the game or you're sitting, on the bench. Mm-hmm. So, to me, you want to be on the court, be on the court. Everybody gets so caught up about, my trainer says I'm a 2, and my trainer says I'm a 1. My trainer says I'm a 3. My trainer says I got to face the basket when I play. Okay, but don't you understand when you go to college, your trainer ain't going to be there and you're going to have to play the way the college coach wants you to play anyway? So, I just say, hey, man, you know what? You're all ones now. Everybody's a 1. You're the one that's going to rebound. You're the one that's going to screen. You're the one that's going to take the shot. And that's the way we're going to play. It's very simple.